I do want to start by saying that we do understand that all of us in this room, over here, behind me, all want to do what's best for the students and citizens of Manchester. We may not always agree on that. So after I have some preliminary remarks, and then we can stay as long as you want for questions. It seems like there were some questions that the public had, but you may have your own as well. So with that, Ginny and I are here to answer any and all of your questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Barry has to go to Boston for a conference pretty soon, so we could hopefully get the rest of the questions. That the Department of Education has genuinely and consistently and robustly supported Manchester over the last several years. Of course, we help support and secure funds to the STEAM Ahead programs at West High School.
I heard you say that the state provided funding for the STEAM Ahead program at West. Maybe you could clarify for me what funding the state provided for that STEAM Ahead project.
We're in the process right now of working with Bob Baines, and we recently, 2 weeks ago, had a meeting with your senior administrative team, and including your principal at West High, to talk about funding opportunities.
But you haven't funded anything as of yet.
We're in the process. Well,
but you haven't funded anything, because what I think the statement is that the state has provided funding to the STEAM Ahead project at West.
It will.
It hasn't as of yet.
Okay.
Correct? Has not as of yet.
Yes.
Has not provided any funding for the first junior STEAM Ahead projects that are in 3 of the elementary schools. Is that correct?
Correct. And as far as a psychologist or someone that said that the balanced assessment is child abuse, that's ridiculous, and it's no more. And I would just leave it at that. It's no different than, again, in my corporate job, when someone says fluoride is a bad thing. So you can get people to say things like that, but it's just simply not true. So I really wanted to respond first to that. So I disagree with the comments that were made that it's child abuse, and that's crazy.
I hope that everybody treats you professionally, respectfully while you're here. I'm very concerned, and I hope that you can extend the same courtesy to our citizens that are sitting behind you. And I don't feel that it's very professional or respectful to call them crazy. They came here. You used that term.
And may I respectfully say this? I wasn't calling them crazy. I said if
you called their ideas crazy, it's equal.
What I said was the reference to someone, okay, I wasn't calling them, so I'm going to correct you on that.
Not from the audience.
We're going through the chair you're on, and I still have the floor.
Please, go ahead. You've got the floor.
It's what I heard. It's how I felt with what you said. I felt it was disrespectful to the citizens of Manchester. I will treat you respectfully. I ask that you treat us and the citizens of Manchester
And I always do.
I don't feel that you did. I'm moving forward from there.
Despite the rhetoric that you heard by the prior speakers, Commissioner Barry is top flight.
Your use of the word rhetoric is incredibly condescending.
All right, enough with the applause, please.
I
Thank you.
And on one hand, we're hearing that parent, involvement is very important and well regarded. And when people aren't agreeing, I hear the word rhetoric.
I hear parents say all the time, I can't teach this math. I can't do this. I don't understand the technology. It is not the job of parents to necessarily teach this skill set. So we have to prepare our students for the 21st century.
As far as whether or not parents have the job of teaching their children math, I completely disagree, Doctor. I think it's the parents' job to teach their children everything in their lives. If a parent is unable to teach their children the math that they're learning, perhaps it is because what they're learning is fuzzy math. And we've seen this going across the country. We've seen it eliminated in a lot of areas of the country because they finally came to the census. And so I think going back to a math that is understandable by the general public may help to remedy the situation.
So to sit here and tell us that we shouldn't have to worry about not being able to help our children with homework because it's the job of the teachers. No, I don't see parents dropping their kids off at the door and that's it for 8 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours if they have after-school programs. Your attitude is incorrect.
Federal law also requires full participation, defining that as 95% of the children. So if our statutes encouraged opting out and that resulted in low participation, that could result in a loss of federal funding. So I'm not sure I would have sent a letter about opting out, but there's obviously certain medical conditions where a parent can have the child opt out, but I certainly would not have encouraged that.
You don't have the right to tell a parent that there's only certain places they have a right to speak out in.
Just a comment and a question. First thing, we're calling it opt-out. My understanding, though, this board realized that you can't opt out and that we actually call it a parent refusal. We looked at a New Hampshire RSA that said parents can refuse certain things. We also looked at United States Supreme Court cases that says parents control the education of their children. So we agree with you that at least the consensus of this board was in agreement with you that you can't opt out, but a parent could refuse.
I probably shouldn't, but say this, that the reason why I did not attend the first meeting that I was invited to was because I do not believe that playing out politically the success of children and families is really a good move.
Now you're here now, and that's very nice, and thank you. We needed you before the test was given. We had questions before. You were invited before. Why are you here now?
So I really can't let stand the comments by some of the public that Commissioner Barry bullied or threatened, or it's a test for money, or it's a corporate takeover, or she ever said that local control was going to go away. That's simply not true.
And telling us that we have all these great programs that you stood behind. I'm pretty sure it's our tax dollars that you're giving us back to support the programs in our city that we're working so hard to push forward. So I'm trying to understand. Either you want the involvement or you don't. Either there is local control or there isn't. And I see when I get a letter put in front of me that says you're going to tag us for millions of dollars if we offer an opt-out option to parents, that is bullying. And it is a threat.
What happens when we have 15, 20, 30% of our families say, we are not willing to let our children take this test? What does the state or the federal government do in Manchester, or is that in local control?
I don't think we can answer that. I'm sorry. We have to work with Washington. It's a sort of a phenomenon that the country's experiencing, and until we get advice relative to from the federal government what impact it would have on federal dollars and whether or not how our state will perceive that lack of participation since it currently is in law. So I can't answer that.
I don't know if you contradicted yourself, Dr. Berry, but you said that when we look at the testing, the smart balance, you went with the federal government and the state looked at what it would cost and then implemented it.
No, that's not what I said.
What did you say then?
What I said was, well, first of all, frame the question again, because I didn't say that the federal government was involved in our assessment. What we chose, they were not involved. This was a statewide educator decision process. Second of all, we had to be very conscious of the cost of the assessment. 50% is paid by the federal government once we decide which assessment we're using, and 50% is paid by the state.
Correct. And I thought you said that you you worked with the federal government on that 50-50?
No,
to see
that
what-
is a formula.
Okay.
That's a
So
flat
if that's
formula.
the case, then Dr. Berry, why wouldn't we get reimbursed? And I'm assuming Manchester can't be alone. There's got to be other districts out there that didn't have the computers. We were fortunate that we had a $2.8 million, a $3.2 million bond that we bought computers with and our infrastructure. If we didn't have that, we weren't able to take that computerized test because we wouldn't have had, first of all, we wouldn't have had the bandwidth to do it, and we wouldn't have had the computers. So if we didn't spend that kind of money, how would a district our size do this?
Well, congratulations to New Hampshire that you to Manchester that you found the funds. Technology is really essential for these students moving into the 21st century, and you deserve a pat on the back for working so hard to be able to provide the proper tools that students need to be successful.
The state can mandate us to take a statewide assessment test, which we have no control over, and if it costs us, again, hypothetically, then next year, $100,000, we got to eat that $100,000 within the adequacy funding and whatever state and federal aid we get. There's no additional dollars coming to the city.
No.